Hey guys, welcome back to the channel on July 4th. And as you can see, things aren't looking so good for me in terms of my temperature condition. Out in the garage right now, it's about 91, which is about what it is outside. And in the house, it's coming up to almost 76. And the reason that's a problem for me is because I've got the AC set for 64, which I wouldn't normally, but I was trying to kind of get a head pressure going on the day and get the house extra cool because I've been having some AC problems. And you can see this guy saying we're 73 in here right now. So those of you that are regulars here will remember this guy from when we cleaned it out over the winter because we were having problems with the furnace igniting. And it looks like we got that addressed, and while I was in there I went ahead and cleaned the air conditioner coils, which are up in here. So I don't think the problem we have is here. I think it's actually in the outdoor unit. And I chatted with a buddy of mine who is a professional HVAC guy, and he's kind of the same mind. What I'm pretty sure is going on is the outdoor unit has got its heat exchangers so full of garbage that it's actually shutting off the compressor and putting it into a thermal protect. So it's overheating and shutting down, yet the system is still trying to run and still trying to produce cold air. It's just not able to compress any. And right now I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. This would be our hot refrigerant return to the outdoor unit. And right now this is room temperature. So the compressor isn't running right now, and this would be our cold line. So to take care of that, we got to go out there with a garden hose and probably rip the thing apart and see if we can get it cleaned up some way. But before I go out there and start shooting water all over a 220 air conditioner sitting out on the side of the house, I've gone in here and killed the power to both the furnace and the air conditioner breakers. And there's probably a service disconnect on the side of the house I can yank to just to be extra sure. All that stuff should be watertight, so it shouldn't really matter, but you know, getting electrocuted isn't really something I want to do today. I'm already hot. And also, if you guys have been around here for a little while, you know that I don't really like to film stuff outside just because I don't want to annoy my neighbors or make them think I'm doing things that, you know, aren't just what I'm doing. But what I can do is dig out my USB inspection camera here. I actually got this as a Christmas gift and totally forgot I even had it. So I thought we'd dig it out and shove it down in the top of the condenser and get some footage and see what's going on there. And see if we can see if it's just packed full of garbage and crap like that. And if it's bad enough, then I'll just take the thing apart and take to it with a hose and back flush it. So flushing it from the inside out, you know, opposite the direction of how the air wants to come through it. So I thought it'd be fun to just go out there with this fairly cheap inspection cam and just see how it shakes out. If we have to go deeper, I'll probably take some footage and then maybe do a voiceover on it later just to draw less attention, because again, don't want to offend the neighbors. But anyway, let's get to it. I'm already roasting hot and it's not getting any better. This may not be the most exciting video in the world, but if I'm going to sweat for it this much, it's going to become a video. So what we got going on right here is I'm just fishing the inspection cam in there before I clean anything out. I'm just going to run it over a few different vents and things. And you can see that's just absolutely, completely packed full of garbage. You know, this thing's very clearly never been cleaned or anything. And that's all lawnmower clippings, dust, pollen, you know, crap like that. But the thing was pretty freaking bad. And this footage just kind of shows you the general nature of the outside of the thing and everything else. I ended up taking that top grate off, which there are just 4 screws around the outside. And here I'm just sort of showing you down inside as well as I can, just to give you a lay of the land. And right there you're going to see me pull the service disconnect, or show you where the service disconnect is. And the service disconnect just removes all of the power to the unit from the electrical box in the basement. And here I'm just pointing out those 4 screw locations that you need to take out so you can flop the fan back to get inside. So now you can see I've got the fan flopped back on the thing. And I'll stuff the camera in so you can kind of see inside of it there. And you can't really see through a whole lot of the condenser there. You can see there's some junk and stuff in the bottom of it. Just generally not looking real awesome inside. And you can see you can't see anything through that condenser. It looks like it suffered a little bit of installation damage too. And so begins the cleaning. Nothing real elaborate going on here. Just a garden hose with a regular spray head from the inside out. Just blast on it until you stop getting crap out of it, really. You can see all the junk I just blew out of it onto the siding there. This actually gets much worse the further along we go. And you see all that crap just getting blown out of the bottom. Again, this just got worse and worse the deeper we went on it. Pretty impressive right about there. Kind of some more of the same around the front of the thing. And as we get down to the bottom, it just gets worse and worse and worse because that's kind of where all the stuff collected. Just super nasty. No surprise that it quit working on us. So after I got some crap blown out from the inside out, I tried to just kind of spray it off from the outside like you've seen me do here. And what I actually discovered worked a lot better was to continue spraying from the inside and then use my other hand to kind of wipe the stuff off the outside as I was going. So kind of like how you might pet a wet dog, I guess, you know, just kind of stroke the outside of the thing to pull that crap out of there. And I was doing more or less that process for about the next hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Wasn't much fun at all. And this is one of the later rounds on this side, after I'd gone at it for probably, I don't know, half an hour or so on that side, just to show you guys that I'm not really getting any more stuff out of it. So that's a large improvement over where we started. Now I've got the thing put back together, and I wanted to show you guys all those little holes in the bottom. Those are all actually drain holes, so you want to make sure you don't have those all plugged up when you're all done. So those little slots at the bottom you actually want to be clear. And you can see I've got the inside of the thing all cleaned out of any kind of crap or garbage or anything else like that. And this is our after shot with the inspection cam. You can see we made quite a large difference. It's not perfect because you're never going to get it perfect unless you take the entire thing apart. Big difference. So we got her all cleaned out and our service disconnect is back in. So let's turn our main breakers back on and hope there's no sparks. Hey, positive sign. So I think that was about an hour and a half of time total. And the thing sure was filthy, but it's hard to tell if that was a real problem or not, but we'll see. This is where the rubber hits the road. Turn it to cool. I'm just going to go ahead and dump it to like 60 just to make sure it runs for a good long while. And now I've started a different camera so we can watch this guy for about the next hour and we'll see what the inside temp does. Well guys, we did something wrong here. By now I would have expected it to drop at least some, and it looks like it might actually be going up. So I went outside to look at the actual unit and it's not even running. So we need to dig deeper. The indoor portion's working because the blower motor is working, but the outside isn't running. So let's start with the easy thing and see if we popped a breaker or if I turned the wrong one on or something. So the air conditioning breaker is on. It says on right there, it's moved to that. Furnace breaker is also on. The only one that's off is for the smoke detectors built into the house because they're garbage. I put my own up. Looks like everybody else in the whole panel is on. So I'm going to go actually turn the power off to the air conditioner or to the whole furnace itself and then turn it back on, see if that makes a difference. We're talking about this guy right here. You can hear it running right now, I'm sure. We'll give that 10 or 20 seconds and we'll turn it back on, and then we'll go outside and see if hopefully the AC fired up. And if it didn't, then I may have something wrong with that service disconnect. I may not have got it put back in correctly. All right, it's been 10 or 20 seconds. Let's try it again. Probably taking a minute to figure out the thermostat's calling for cold, or much longer than a minute. Yeah, let's go kajigger with the thermostat. And this thermostat, when you try and turn it to off to cool, if it's been recently running, won't do it. It'll make it set out like 5 minutes. So right now it's set to cool, and you can see cool on flashing. It's complaining because the compressor it thinks was recently running, so it won't short cycle it like that. So we're just gonna have to leave it off for about 5 minutes. So this has been a few minutes. Let's try it again. Okay, thermostat just kicked on. I don't hear the furnace itself running yet. There it goes. Let's give that a little bit here, and then we'll go out and see if the unit's actually running. And that's a big no. I don't even hear compressor noises. Right now that disconnect's got live power on it. I'm thinking the thing to do is probably kill the breaker, pull the disconnect, turn the breaker back on, check the disconnect with my multimeter and see if we're getting voltage out here. Otherwise this thing may have smoked. Speaking of smoked, what you're hearing right now is my asshole neighbor doing a huge burnout in his driveway. He does stuff like this non-stop. It's a lot of fun. So I've got the disconnect pulled back out of it. I turned the breaker on, so there should be 220 live to that thing now. So we need to be a little careful. We're going to see if we can avoid getting electrocuted while seeing if we have any voltage on this thing. I don't know if my probes are actually long enough to get in to reach it. I mean, it's designed so you can't do this. It's reading something. I don't think my probes are thin enough. See, the problem I'm having is you got to get pretty deep up in there. These disconnects are actually pretty deep. I'm just going to go hero zero and just bang it back in there. I can already tell from just the outlet there that we probably don't have an AC running, but we'll walk back out there and look. Yep, sure enough, no joy. She ain't doing anything. So it looks like the landlord's got an AC to fix. We tried. This sucks, so it's already 79 in the house. Anyway, till next time, guys. Well, that sucks. It looks like the thing to do now is just shut it off, because it's not doing me any good anyhow. And maybe in a few hours it'll start working, but I sort of doubt it. I got a feeling that the contactor for the thing is blown out, or it's got some sort of thermal protection or something that's blown out or something. But it looks like my landlord's likely 10-year absence of any maintenance to this stuff just bit him and me in the butt. You know, you guys saw how filthy that thing is. There's no way it's ever been cleaned, or certainly not been cleaned in at least 5 years. I've been here for 3 and it's never been done. So, it is what it is. What proceeded next was me spending 3 very hot and sweaty days taking the bachelor off the old pad so we could call the HVAC guy in. And as you can see, we now have air conditioning, so clearly things have been fixed. My suspicion that it was a bad contactor was exactly right, and I'll explain to you guys what that is. And all a contactor really is a fancier word for a relay. At least in my understanding, there are some other differences, and more knowledgeable people will fill you in on those differences. But for the most part, a contactor is just another word for a relay. If you don't know what a relay is, we're over here with our friends at circuittoday.com to kind of shoplift their diagram of a relay so we can explain it to you. If you have more questions, of course, go over here and check these guys out. Nice of them to unknowingly help me out here. But anyway, relays are really straightforward. All they are is a switch that takes low current power and uses it to turn on high current power. And how that happens is you have basically just an electromagnet inside. So you energize a coil that then closes this switch over here, which would be where your high current side is. So you just use a low signal current to turn on a higher output current. And the reason that you would use a relay, or a contactor in this case, is so you don't have to use such large gauge wire for such long runs and stuff like that. So you can use a really small gauge wire to turn on a much larger current that needs much bigger wire to operate. So in the case of this AC, the thing's probably only 6 feet away from the breaker box, but it's 30 or 40 feet as you would route the wire from the furnace itself. So it's a cost reduction thing. It's also a safety thing. So your control wiring doesn't need to be lethally large, man killer kind of stuff. That's all a relay slash a contactor is, and that's kind of how they work. In the case of our contactor, what had happened, since the compressor was running non-stop and it could never cool that refrigerant down and make cold air, the temperature inside the compressor just kept going up and up and up, and the temperature inside the whole unit just kept going up and up and up. And therefore, the whole time it ran, it just continued to try and draw more and more power. And this contactor itself got hot and actually burned out this whole portion of it right here. Like there was a literal hole in it back here, and this screw lug was all torched. This wire was kind of smoked, had to be stripped back a little bit, and I think to be run back in there. So it got hot enough, it burned a literal hole in this contactor and smoked it. For what it's worth, I've bought contactors before and replaced them in ACs before when I owned the equipment. And these things are like 20 or 30 bucks. I think this one on Amazon's like 30 or 40 bucks. I promise you it cost my landlord probably 200 bucks to have the HVAC guy pull in the driveway. So if you're playing along at home and this is something you want to do, yeah, you can totally manage to switch out a contactor on your own if you can operate a screwdriver. It's really not that hard. But I have a pretty long-standing principle in my life when it comes to renting other people's houses or stuff, that I will do what is reasonable. You know, if I rented a car, maybe I'd check the oil, I'd for sure put gas in it, or if a tire was low, I'd put air in it, but I'm not going to rebuild the engine. You know, this isn't my equipment. I could have made things worse by going in there. Who knows? So it was at the point that we went to earlier in the video that I gave it up and let the landlord deal with it. For you at home, this is something you can totally manage to do without any issue. And while I was waiting on the HVAC guy to show up, I went ahead and bought an emergency backup plan so I could at least cool down my bedroom if I wanted to, and that is this guy, which is just a 6,000 BTU tiny little window AC. And I ended up not needing it at the moment, but since I own it and I kind of want to have a spare around in case something like this happens again, I believe we're going to take that guy and bring him out to the shop and stuff him in that guy. Or more precisely, I'm going to go buy another exterior door and cut a hole in it and stuff it in the door that I will own. So I don't really want to cut a hole in my landlord's door. I think this will kind of all be for naught because we have an uninsulated building, as you can see. But hey, even if it takes, let's say 115 that it can get out here sometimes, down to like 90 and low humidity for a day, that would be freaking fantastic. So stay tuned at some point for cutting the door up to put an air conditioner in it. As always, guys, I appreciate you stopping in for this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.